You're listening to the Kings and Priests podcast with Serge DeRosa. And today I want to share with you a conversation I had with Sean and Kylie Henderson from Wildfire Tribe. In this episode, we discuss the fun ways God wants to interact with you and the power of choice which shapes that experience. This is definitely one you're going to enjoy. And listen till the end where we discuss some interesting things they discovered on their trip to the U.S. So first of all, thank you for joining us. I want to say it's an honor to have you, but for real, it is truly an honor. And I'm excited to introduce you to the rest of our friends that listen to our podcast and our audience that stretches nearly around the world. So I'm excited to throw you into these circles if they've not already heard about you and are following you. And so thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, well, mate, it's an honor for us in exactly the same way that it is for you to be joining you on your podcast. And it's something, after meeting you actually in person and then talking about doing a podcast, we've been looking forward to it. So it's awesome to be here. We don't know where it's going, but we don't mind.
Right. That's exactly it. And let me talk about that for a second. I saw you visiting places all over the U.S. When you were here just a few weeks ago. How many months did you spend here in the U.S.?
Almost 2 months, yeah. So
almost 2 months. Almost 2 months. You're from Australia. And so I saw you hitting all these places, and I'm like, I got to reach out. And so I reached out, and if I remember correctly, you were like, yeah, I'm not sure that we'll make it back that way. And then about a week later, you said, hey, you still want to have coffee? And I was like, man, if you need a place to stay, come stay with us, And you came in on a Wednesday night and you left on a Friday morning. So you were here a little over 24 hours. And we never had a conversation except through text message. And it was very short at that. And so, but I know, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the way home that day that you were coming in, I don't ever see ducks. I know ducks is a thing for people, but it's not a thing for me. And I don't ever notice them or see them. And I started seeing ducks everywhere on the way home. And I was like, I know this is going to be a really, really good visit. I just knew it was connected. And you guys showed up and we saw ducks throughout the day also. We saw even down to little bitty ducks at the coffee shop.
Yeah, that's right.
We did.
Johan, a friend of ours, as you guys know, the Wildfire song, Johan calls it these micro moments. When you hang out with Johan, you'll have micro moments all through the day. And he's aware of that. And he'll make you aware of it. And we'll just take it in. One of them was at that coffee shop that we visited. There was 2 pianos there, and Johan saw the piano and he got on it and he was like, this is a micro moment. And we just basked in that moment for a while. And I remember sitting at the coffee shop with you guys around that table. And Kylie, you were taking pictures of the table and the drinks and all. And I felt a micro moment on it. And the universe was above us, painted on the ceiling. It was a micro moment. But all throughout that day, we kept experiencing these mystical micro moments. And I love that that's something that you guys are very engaging with, is that mystical side, that God just doing fun things with you.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, for sure, mate. I think that, the mystical side of it, the language that some mystics walk in, they're understanding that there's, supernatural realms, there's micro moments, or there's whatever language that you put around it. I think that all of those things are possible and all of those things are available for us to explore if we choose to believe that they are. And then if you choose to believe that these moments are moments in time that have been created since before the beginning of time, for instance, and all of a sudden Serge and Kylie and Sean are now in a moment that was created from before. Wow, where can we explore in that? But I feel like there's this ongoing choice of, do you even want to acknowledge that this is possible to explore this realm or discuss it or honor it? And if you do, I feel like it can expand from there. So the ducks, like honoring that there's something about ducks seeing ducks, and what it represents to you, whether it represents joy or a mystical wonderland of exploration that's available for us. If you honor that it's possible, then it's got the opportunity to expand and it's got the opportunity for you to gain more understanding. And if you choose that it doesn't mean anything, then nothing will come of it as well.
Mm. And I think it's also a reflection of the adventure that we're on with our creator, that it is fun.
Yeah.
That there's pleasure attached to it, that it is this wild journey that we're on, that every moment and the essence of everything is actually coming into agreement with what it is that we're stepping into in every moment. It's like the beautiful synchronicities, they increase as we honor them.
Yeah.
And as we honor the adventure that we could possibly be on this journey that is all encompassing. It's like something that is, when you're in, when you know, you can't go back into a place of unknowing because, well, you can if you so choose to. But, there's this expanded place in that you start to engage with. That means that every moment is a part of the unfolding journey.
Yeah. That night that you guys were here, we had a dinner come together and we had friends and family and we filled the house. We ate and you shared how the Lord had been playing cards with you. And you shared how that's the kind of relationship that God wants to have with us. I remember the Lord speaks to me and my wife with pennies. There have been times where I'd be in a parking lot or something praying and I'll find 200 pennies. 200 pennies. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, come on. You talked about how the Lord speaks to you with cards, has been playing cards with you.
Yeah. No, that's extraordinary. As you're talking about the pennies, like I recall being in Tulsa with you, sitting in that park in the sun, which is something that we had requested of our time with you, and you just made it happen. And then there's these fish swimming around, and do not be surprised at some stage in the future if a fish appears in a place like that with a coin in its mouth for you, just to reassure you that, everything is as it should be. It's like this adventure of, yet again, like if you choose to honor that it's real and it's true and it has meaning attached to it, don't be surprised if you keep seeing because now that you've honored it, it becomes your inheritance. And I've got an ongoing card game that's been going for over 3 years now, where since I shared at your place, I had 5 cards there, but now I've got another one. And I didn't want to play the game anymore because I felt like the game was complete. The story that I shared with you and the consecutive cards and the hat being introduced into that being a complete story, I was happy with that outcome being complete. Now it's something that I can tell, it makes sense. But, the God that I know, the God that I engage with, that I honor, that there is more of, has now introduced to me another card, and it was in a Walmart car park in California on the last night of our staying in a car park in our van. I went to put rubbish in the bin and there was a playing card face down next to the bin. And I was like, no, I don't want to play it anymore because it's already complete. But there was a frequency, like a ringing bell noise coming from the card that I honor. When I honor it, it's like, wow, that card's got life. I get to choose, do I pick it up or not? If I pick it up and it's not the card that I desire, I can still make a choice as to whether or not it's a part of my game, part of my life or not. And I picked it up and turned it over, and it was a 10 of hearts. Now, the 10 of hearts in the cards that I have is the next card. It's the next card after the 5 I already have. And so it's like, wow, that makes sense. That fits. I put it in my wallet. And last night I shared on another Zoom in Australia, or the day before, that story. And when I was thinking about sharing the story, I wanted to tie the cards into the word honor, which we like to use amongst ourselves because it's reciprocal and it has life as well. And as I was thinking about the word honor, I asked Siri, give me the definition of honor. And she said one, and I was like, no, not that. Next one. Next one. The fourth or the fifth definition of honor that she gave me was ace, king, queen, jack, 10. Yeah, exactly, mate. That's what I did. I just went, what? And I just
No
stopped
way.
and I Googled it, by hand so I could read it. And in the card game bridge, an ace, a king, a queen, a jack, and a 10, I called an honor. And I'd never heard of that before. And I was like, wow, like now this all ties, this is the bridge to the story of honor and the card game.
Yeah.
And it also is this beautiful key and this beautiful closure to our trip, that we would receive the card that created a hand of honor on the last day of our 50 days in America, where we had really desired to see a cross-pollination journey where we're honoring what the US holds within the expression of the body across the nation and bringing our peace that is pollinating together from our nation. And just on that last day to actually have received something which was an expression of honor. And also that it's out of the card game bridge. And we saw ourselves as a bridge between the nations in this coming together. And it's like, and this is seemingly silly little things that happen along our day that as adults, we don't have to place any value upon at all. But when we see things out of that kingdom perspective, where we're bringing ourselves as little children into this world of, wow, this expanse where everything comes alive with a different expression, it's like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. It's a place that I call it the blissful place, but it's like, it's a place that we're all invited to engage with, right? And it's interesting because we can get really serious and it's okay. There are times to be serious. I get it. But man, we can get so serious about everything. And we think that's how God is, so serious about everything. But something he's been showing me lately, and I think it kind of was birthed when you guys came around, is he was showing me that he just wants to build tree houses with us. And that's what I keep hearing. He's like, let's build tree houses. And he referenced my ministry as a tree house. Like we're building tree houses with the Father. And that is a fun place for me. It's a place where you don't get burnt out. It doesn't get overwhelming. There may be times where it's serious, but we're doing it with the Father. And he don't want to do it alone, and the kid doesn't want to do it alone. So they're doing it together. And God's like, let's just build tree houses together. And it's interesting because you keep mentioning it doesn't have to be that way, or it can be that way. And I noticed that you said that a lot when you were here, when we would talk about something. I remember you went up to my son and you were talking about patience. How does God teach us patience?
Yeah.
And you told us some people would answer that like, he'll put things in your path. And he's like, I mean, it can be that way for you, but it doesn't have to be. He can just give it to you.
Yeah.
And I know from me, I've lived out of frustration. I've lived in a place where everything was about warfare.
Yeah.
And God met me there. He did life with me there, but I didn't have to be there.
Yeah.
And eventually I came out of it and found a better way where he's like, hey, I'm wanting to build tree houses with you over there. Will you come with me? Will you come build tree houses with me? And eventually I answered that call. And to me, that's that blissful place.
Yeah, it's outrageous, mate, that, like even Paul speaks about, becoming all things to all men. And I think it applies right through to who you choose God to be. And I know that's outrageous, but it's like, if God is the serious God that you used to know, that used to judge you and tell you what to do and was cranky when you did things wrong, because that's an understanding that you've grown up with through church, through religious teachings, you've applied it, you've believed it to be true. That's how you see your relationship with him. But yet there's people in the world that are not related to the same God that you know in that same way. So is it possible that the God that you're related to and the way that you think about him is actually your choosing? So if it's your choice and the way that you live out your life depending on what it is that you believe about him and how much he loves you as well. The unconditional love. The word unconditional on the front of love's put there unnecessarily because love is unconditional. But that's how little we believe that he loves us. We have to put another word in front of it. And then you still get to choose whether or not you believe that that's true or not. And if you do believe that he loves you without conditions, your life that you lead, your interaction with people on a daily basis, looks something different to somebody who doesn't believe that. But it's the same God. And so have we got a choice within it all to decide what kind of God he is for us, and whichever kind that he is that we decide, he honors. And by honoring it, he gives us what it is that we believe that he is. And so in amongst all of that, when it comes to choices of the things that we pursue, such as the patience example, and it was actually Kylie that enlightened me to her. It's not my own revelation, you know. She's much more mature than me. The patience part of it is, normally in a church environment, you ask people, you know, how is it that you come by patience? How is it that it comes into your life? And most people that I've asked would say that when you ask for patience, God will put something in your life that requires you to develop it. So an annoying person or in a circumstance that requires you to then work through to get to a place where you now have patience. Or you can just believe because that you are a son of his and that everything that you ask for, he will give to you, that he just gives it to you. And there's nothing you have to earn or learn or strive to gain from him because you have a different relationship with him. But that he'll honor either.
And I think it's that power too in our free will and our journey of co-creation, that we are actually co-creating our own reality through our belief systems and what we actually believe is true. And it's like when we're starting to learn about, okay, who am I? If we're sons and daughters of the Creator, then what does that give us access to, and how powerful are we in this relational journey moving forward? So it's relearning or understanding that I don't actually operate out of that place of like a striving consciousness where I'm constantly making decisions out of a place of lack of those things that I don't have, but I'm actually like engaging in this place of union consciousness, which is who I am in him, which is like I'm making decisions based out of the fullness, which is this beautiful place of who I already am. So I think that there's so much power in that place. Like as we're doing that relational journey, we're understanding, oh my goodness, we're just not these little pawns that are getting moved around in a game, but we're actually really powerful within ourselves to co-create our own reality. And whatever that looks like, we can do that as a company and we can do that as individuals as well.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
super.
I recently sat with a minister who was inquiring about our ministry. And in the middle of it, he stopped me and said, do you know that you're going to get attacked by the devil? And I don't partner with that, right? And so I just kind of stood there, honored the guy, just staying in that place of peace and rest and like, okay, say what you need to say, but that's not what I partner with. And then he hunkered down and said, are you ready? Are you ready to be attacked? And I've been in that place. I know that place. I know that place all too well. It didn't serve me well, but God met me there and I saw God there. And so we get in the car and we're talking about it and we're talking about all the good things. And then my wife's like, man, that was a really kind of a strange moment. I was like, yeah, it was. And then I started explaining to her how bad things happen in life. Things come our way. And right when I started talking like that, I heard the Spirit say, you won't partner with an attack of the devil, but you'll partner with an attack of life. And I was like, scratch everything I said. We're not living in that place anymore. We're going to a higher place. And after that, as the weeks unfolded, the Lord started showing me that, you know, the scriptures say Christ is the wisdom of God. All the wisdom we have is there. It says, if you think you lack it, ask God and he'll give it to you liberally. We have it all because we're in Christ and he's the wisdom. All the lessons have been learned.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by the cloud of witnesses that have learned all the lessons for us. We don't have to relearn them.
Yeah.
And so this is some of the things he's been showing me about. You can live in that place where you think, yeah, trials and tribulations come. It's what the scripture, or you can take it to a higher place.
Yeah.
And God met me at that place. Or I could take it to a higher place and say, no, we're not going to live that way anymore. We're going to live in the bridal garden of bliss. We can live in that place. It's paradise. What's that look like? And then we can make, everything we see in other people's lives and hear what everybody's telling. We can make that be our standard, or we can dig into the spirit and say, what's your standard?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, his standard is the garden. It's the place of union, complete union.
And, further to the conversation that we've been having about what version of him do you know and relationally how you connected to him, etc., I think that you can probably find a verse in the Bible that will back up any version that you like as well. And this is where we into the ground where it's like we find ourselves in arguments over our theological understandings because there's so many verses that we just throw at each other to back up what it is that we've chosen to believe. Well, if we've got options as to what it is that we choose to believe, why don't we believe in a God that wants to actually allow us to play in the treehouse in the Garden of Eden and create something out of seemingly nothing that's adventurous and wonderful and joyful and peaceful and all of those lovely things, as opposed to choosing a different version that's a difficult life, like the example that you gave. Do I choose to partner with somebody inflicting me with those hurtful words? If I do, and I respect and honor that person, and I believe that they're teaching me something that's true, that's definitely going to look different in your life to what it looks like to playing in a treehouse.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had people that have gotten a little upset that I've said that I'm done partnering with that stuff. And here's where we are on this side. It's what you're saying. It's like, it's okay. It's okay if you don't want to live in this spot. It's okay if you don't agree. It's all good. You can live in that spot. It goes back to what you're saying. You can live in that spot. It's up to you. God will meet you there, but you don't have to. Yeah, I absolutely love that.
And he loves you.
Yeah.
And I love you. It doesn't change any of that. That's not a measurement of his love for you. Yeah. It's just that you've chosen to live in that paradigm. And but there's always more. My understanding is that the possible, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. I think that the possible realm is just what we've already seen. Mm-hmm. And so anything that we can look into the life of somebody else and see has a pattern that's been brought onto the world, we can go, okay, well, I can do that, or I cannot do that because that belongs to that person and they're way better than me. But that's even a lower level dimensional understanding of what's available to us, because there's actually the unseen, what we call the impossible, but it's just language around something that tells you that there's just more. Now, it becomes possible when you say that it is. When we say that we're coming to the US and we're going to visit you, Serge, in your house, that's shaped out of words, out of the impossible realm, because it's impossible for us to do that. But when you say it, it becomes possible. And so if we can create out of the impossible the possible, then why do we believe that there's a finished place there? There's a line where we can't go.
And I think there's also an element of the activation of our words. So as we're letting go of those pieces of our culture that we don't want to come into agreement with, because we're wanting to co-create a new earth, really, like a new paradigm for people to live within. So it actually takes people to take hold of those things they believe in that can be our reality out of the unseen realm, and not only birth them as a concept, but as words that we're calling others to come into agreement with, really, but actually to be able to tangibly step out on the pathway where we begin to see the adventure come around us, like the synchronicities of the ducks and the cards and all of these different things that actually happen to us on the pathway of believing that placing our feet into spaces where we don't have answers, we're on the unknown pathway that is actually drawing us into the reality of what we know is more. But we can't, it's not going to happen if we stay in the realms of the seen. It's not going to happen if we only surround ourselves what we know to be true. And I think that's like for us, it began even in those very simple things a number of years ago where we just stopped watching the news. We stopped, we were like, well, we're just going to stop doing that. And then all of a sudden, those things that had become or were so concerning to us, we realized they actually didn't impact our reality at all. They were actually only a piece of fear that we could engage with. And for some people, they say, yes, but you've got to know what's happening in the world. You've got to but for me, I believe if we're going to make a tangible change, then we need to begin out of that place where we can believe that there can be something better.
The news is just a representation of a pattern that's already in place. Why don't we create news out of a place that's not already seen?
Yeah.
Yes, news from the treehouse.
There you go.
In future news, so it is planting a tree, and it's actually going to grow from a seed to a full-grown tree it can stand underneath in a moment.
And it's going to look like a fiery sword of wonder and adventure and glory and power.
Amen to that. We've been linking up with little groups all over the U.S. that are popping up. Just these gatherings that don't look like your traditional church. What we're doing here at Urban Eden is what we're seeing popping up everywhere. And I've noticed the same phrase that's being said, and it's, we don't know what we're doing. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Because I think about the disciples. Jesus comes, he teaches them, and then he rises, ascends into heaven, and they're like, what do we do now? We don't have a blueprint for this. This is brand new. And I feel like this is a moment in time where we're at this again, because there's so many people that are starting to get a hold of this place of no holds. And let's take the standards off the table, because we've put so many blueprints out there, and this is the way you do church, and this is how you grow a church. And we've come to this place where it's like, man, there's got to be more to God than this. And there is. It's endless. And a lot of people are coming into this place where they're like going back. One of the things that I see is when Adam was on the earth and the Spirit spoke to Adam, he didn't have a standard for that. He didn't know how that was supposed to be fulfilled. And today I'm going to look at how was it fulfilled for the Hendersons. And that becomes my standard. But what if we take the standards off the table and start exercising that place of imagination?
Exactly.
That's the birthing place. Start sitting in that place and seeing things, not with our natural eyes, but with our spiritual eyes. Start seeing things again. Man, take the limits off. And the impossible becomes possible. And we're seeing people, they say in the world, we're seeing people in the world that are doing this, where they're eradicating cancers, where they're thinking about bringing life to Mars. Nothing's impossible. They're catching a hold of this. How much more with those who are engaging with the Spirit of God and saying, God, birth these things in me. Let me see. Show me show me some things. Like, I want to step forward in this, That's a place. That's our place.
If you call something impossible, it is. And we don't apply as much value to the word possible. We don't say, it's possible and therefore it's going to happen. There's this question mark. It's possible, but I don't know how to bring it about, because you haven't seen it before. It hasn't been patterned, Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world is not about the world as in the sinning people, the unsaved, the non-Christian world in that discussion is a time, an age, a moment in history. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this time in history where all that you've seen to be true is true, but allow yourself to be renewed to thinking that there is actually something in the future that we haven't yet seen. So modeling your church on something that's from the past is fine. It's a pattern that you can repeat. It has outcomes that have been measured in the past. There's difficulties that arise that you learn how to handle. But functioning in this place of the all things are possible, as in things we've never seen, is an uncomfortable place for us to live because there's comfort in the patterns. There's comfort in the results. There's a comfort in knowing that if this happens in my church, this is how I can deal with it. But it's really uncomfortable to live on the edge of formulating something on the run. But how are we ever going to explore the mystery of Him, which is never ending, if we're not prepared to just keep on pressing into the impossible?
Yeah.
And it's also the freedom that's found in that place when we take all of the separation out of the equation. So there's no lines. We're in this beautiful blanket of the oneness of humanity. So we don't have to be seeing, that should be coming out of the church or that should be coming out of the body of Christ, because we all are. We're just on we're at different stages of our journey of coming into the revelation of what already is, which is actually each of our own individual light DNA. It's like that place of our own destiny, which looks unique and beautiful and different for each one of us. And I think that's the beauty of what you're speaking into when you're seeing all of these gatherings rising around the nation. And we're seeing it too with all of these people who have less answers. They're in that place of like, we don't know what we're doing, but we know that it's good. And we know that it's a part of who we are and what we're bringing to the earth, this place of co-creation and joining together to cheer one another on in this beautiful expression of, it is just like a symphony, where each one of us is a beautiful instrument. And now we're starting to see, and I think this was one of the beautiful parts about our journey across America, was that we actually got to hold some instruments that we didn't even know existed. And that's so special because there are these traditional instruments that we are raised to know that are part of an orchestra, or, the brass section and the rock instruments and all the different ones. But there are instruments rising now that we didn't even know were part of the fabric of humanity. And they're bringing beautiful sounds to who we are that is awakening us in a way that we're like, wow, did you feel that?
Yeah.
Like something just, wow, what is it about the atmosphere here? It's like, it's glorious. So I feel like that's really exciting.
That is exciting. I love it. I have a friend mentioned something a few days ago, and it's, your voice, it's vibration, but everything carries a vibration. Science will show you that therefore everything has a voice, and everything is always speaking.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is.
Everything is always speaking.
That I spoke to you about, the 10 of hearts that was in the Walmart car park, and I said it was ringing like a bell ringing noise coming from a playing card. Not because I can hear it with my ears, but it's like I can hear it and see it. It's a combination of senses of allowing yourself to believe that that is possible.
Yeah.
And when you believe that that is possible, and you start taking the limits off what is possible and impossible, that it's likely that it's likely that every playing card in the deck actually carries a frequency different to another one, and you no longer have to look at them to see what they are, but you can hear what they are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's two scriptures that just keep ringing in my head. And scriptures have layers, right? The famous scripture, whatever we bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever we loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And that just keeps ringing in my head as you guys talk. And it's like God saying, what do you want?
Yeah.
Whatever you bind, what do you want? What do you want? And the other one is whatever a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful one because I've lived that. I've been through, and I'm sure you guys have too, but I've lived some pretty crappy times. And it wasn't the Lord's doing, it was my doing.
You
He
actually,
did life with me there, you know?
Yeah. And it's so true. I think there's something that we unlock when we understand the power of our choice, because choice isn't just something random. Like, it is actually, it's a vibrational signal that we're putting out to creation to come into agreement with whatever it is that we've chosen as our reality. So everything is, like you were saying, everything is constantly has this frequency and this vibration that is actually seeking a like the same vibration to come into agreement with me.
Yeah.
So if I'm vibrating at this lower level with a belief system about myself that isn't the fullness of who I've been created to be, there is a vibration of lower level reality that wants to come in and partner with who it is that I believe I am, that brings about all of the situations and everything into my reality to affirm what it is that I believe. So if I'm vibrating in this place of like all things are possible, and I'm making choices that are causing me to step into a reality that even is full of the unknown, there is all of these higher dimensional vibrations that are actually waiting to partner with my choice and my decision, because I'm powerful as a co-creator with my Father, that all come into agreement with that. And we see it time and time again.
it's like you're talking about heaven and it manifesting on earth. That there's all these availability for us out of the heavens if we choose to believe that there is. And then when you choose to believe that there is, it has somewhere to land. It's circling around looking for people to believe that anything is possible. Oh, there's Serge. He wants this to be happening in his life. Oh, at last, I've got somewhere to go and partner with a human who actually believes that this is possible.
Yeah.
Or Serge is believing that he's not a very nice person and he stubs his toe, and then he reinforces how unworthy he is. And then, this happens, and then he's constantly in this place of believing that he's unworthy. And the rest of the world is actually going, okay, well, if that's what you believe, here's more to just reinforce your understanding. I think that's another place that we get to choose, including, and I've walked out a period of decades of depression, and I chose it. And it wasn't until the time where I came to the realization that I had chosen it and I was choosing it on a daily basis as being worthy of being in my life, something that I could nurture because I understood and I found comfort in it. It wasn't until that point where I realized that it was my choice, and it was also my choice as to whether I could do something with it, where everything changed for me. Once I accepted that responsibility and that thinking too, because when I first came to that realization that I could make a choice about being depressed or not, I was offended. I was offended that a psychiatrist would say something like that to me, because I was like, how dare you? You don't know the circumstances of my life. You don't know what I've had to walk out to put myself in this place of misery. And then it's like, hang on, I can let that go. I can create a new future for me in what is my unseen, is in my impossible, because it's not something I've ever seen for me. And so then I made that switch of, now everything's possible. All those things I used to think were impossible, I chose to believe that. But now I can believe that everything's possible. And that includes things I have no grasp of right now.
Yeah, I recently went down a rabbit hole on some new things they're discovering with seeds. And they were talking about, certain seeds especially, but when they hit the ground, get covered up with soil, they start vibrating at such a high vibration. And it's like when you're shaking like milk or something, you shake it so much the cream comes to the top. Well, the seed shakes at such a high vibration, that's what's actually pulling the nutrients to it and the minerals to it. And the study that I was looking into was talking about how much of our makeup is a lot like the seed. But the difference is we can control our vibration and a seed can't.
Yeah.
Wow.
We can heighten our vibration. And what's interesting is in the last year, there have been times where I would, with my physical ears, can hear my being. I could hear the resonance of it. I could hear the sound of it. And I didn't even know. I didn't even put this together till recently. It's one of those where I wasn't aware enough, but I was aware in the moment to be like, I can hear myself vibrating. I could hear my sound. And I'd hear it when it wasn't right. And I can remember one in particular, it bothered me the way it sounded. And every time I brought it up, I just brought it up. I don't know how to explain it, but I brought my vibration up. And that happened several times this year. And I recently got sick. And it was the second worst sickness I've ever had in my life. And I was like, it was brutal. It was almost traumatizing. But the next day I'm on the couch all day long. And 3 times that day, I heard that sound like a low. And so I'd bring it up just for a few seconds. And then I'd forget about it and go on. That happened 3 times that day. And I woke up the next morning, 99.9%. And I knew it was tied to that. And then the Lord started putting together, I've been teaching you how the body functions. But we get so afraid of these things. It's nothing to be afraid of. He created it. It's all in him.
Yeah.
It's all part of his creation. And if we're willing, he's willing to teach us how it all functions. And so we unlock these things. I wouldn't even say unlock them. We're just stepping into what's already unlocked and available to us, you know?
Yeah. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of your thinking that makes you believe that the sickness that you have can't be overcome by him revealing something new to you. And so that, consider it pure joy, when you face these trials. It's like, out of this trial of being sick on the lounge, if I allow myself to believe that I'm in a state of pure joy, that is because he's going to reveal to me something that's going to help me overcome this sickness in the future for not just me, but for all of mankind. I had a brother who was sick in hospital for 6 weeks and he couldn't eat, couldn't drink. And he was actually handicapped all of his life to the point where he couldn't actually communicate either. He was 51 or 2 at this time when he'd been in hospital for 6 weeks. And I went to visit him and my mum and dad were there and they were talking about how they needed him to be able to consume food to be able to leave hospital so he could go home to continue to live his life. But that he had something wrong inside him and nobody understood what it was and he couldn't eat and he couldn't communicate what it was. So that day they were going to take him away into surgery and they're going to put a camera down his throat to have a look around to see if there was an obstruction that was preventing him from eating, which was therefore preventing him from being released out of the hospital. 6 weeks he hadn't been able to eat. Now, when I visited, I put on my phone a song that had just come out by a girl called Laura C. And it's a song called The Healing Song. And I'd only just heard it. And I pressed play and I put the phone on my brother's chest. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't move. He couldn't say anything to make it move away or anything. And I didn't make a scene of it. I didn't bring it to the awareness of my parents either. I just put it there. And I left. After that song played, which is about a 20-minute song, I left. I texted my parents afterwards, how did it go when they took him away to look around for whatever the obstruction was within him? And my parents said they couldn't find anything and he's eating and he's going home in the morning.
Come on. That's so good.
And, there's a frequency and there's a vibration on a song that's been created by a person intentionally who's navigating heavens looking for frequency to put into song, who's then released it onto a phone, who's then it's been placed on somebody's body on the other side of the world, who has not had to have it explained to him what's going on, that has then healed a person, which in some places we would call a miracle. And he's completely fine the very next day to be able to go home.
It's an encouragement it's encouragement to me too. It's just that, just take the standards off, take the limits off, and go for it. Like, exercise that place of imagination. Invite the Lord into that place and just, sit in union in that place and see what births in that place of imagination. What I've seen is that's the place of creation. That's where we co-create. That's where we first get to see it.
Yes.
And then it comes forth from that place. Yeah.
No, true, mate. And you put language, put words around what it is that you've seen in the heavens to then be able to explain it, to then be able to build structure around those words and that vision that you've seen and watch it come to pass. Like the guy who first said, I'm flying to Mars, everybody went, you're not going to be able to fly to Mars. But he said it, he saw it, he said it, structures around it. They've built, the platforms to be able to do it. And before you know it, mankind is going to Mars.
Right. That's
Yeah.
excellent.
And I think it's that place too where there is a lot of fear in religion. Like when you're coming out of a fear-based understanding that you're afraid of being deceived and all of these different things.
Yeah.
But I feel like the adventure with our Creator, it allows us to experience His love in a way that it's that perfect love that casts out all fear. So we know then when we're engaging on the relational journey, the adventure with Him, where we're stepping into places that we never thought we would go before because we used to be too fearful to go into these places of energy, frequency, and vibration. Like that sounds a bit woo, but that's the essence of our being. Like that's these beautiful creators that are made in the image of our Creator, who is the energy of love. Like the essence of Him is energy and frequency and vibration. It's these pieces of ourself that we can't see with the physical eyes, but we know is a very real reality when we sit long enough in the stillness to be able to experience the reality of what is in those realms. And I think then we can embark on these adventures into the possibilities of the impossible realm and draw them into our reality because we're not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
And the impossible realm is only impossible because we say that it is.
Right. Yeah. And I just feel this right now is, there's some people listening that just need to know it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to go there. Matter of fact, God wants you to go there. He wants to explore that place with you and take you through those things. So you have full reign to go. You have the full freedom to go.
Absolutely, mate. And I believe, if you're listening now and you're a Christian person who knows God, Spirit, Jesus, that is your reality, then those places that you're going to do so in the knowledge that you are connected with them intimately at all times. And you cannot be stepping into a place of immense danger or a catastrophic outcome for your life whilst ever you know that you're entwined with them. I think it's a very basic principle, Christian principle of understanding that, if you feel like you can be separated from Him, then that's a dangerous place to go. I don't even believe that that's true, that it's possible to be separated from Him.
Right.
So it's up to you as to what you believe in that space. And if you believe that He is with you at all times, then there's not really anywhere that you can't go.
And the scriptures do say that everything's in Him. Everything was created through Him. It's all His. And He's given it all to us.
Yeah.
The frequency, the vibrations, the crystals, the understandings that Christianity has passed off into what we call the world or the unsaved people. Now we're crying because they've got access to these understandings that we have separated ourselves from out of fear.
Yeah.
It's time for us to believe that we have access to all of those things because of who we are and step back in and stop crying about toys that we've given away to other people out of a misunderstanding and a misidentification or an understanding of who you are.
Amen. That's so good. There's two more things I want to do, though, before we end this. One of them is I want to do something a little fun. So you just came off of this trip in Australia, and one of the things you shared with us that was absolutely fascinating to me was you were sharing about some of the things you saw here that you found fascinating. One of them being school buses.
Yeah.
What's up with the school bus thing? Why were you so fascinated with school buses?
What's up with your school buses, mate? Like, why are you still driving yellow school buses around? We thought, but what's up with them is because we grew up on US television and movies without necessarily even realizing that we have, everything that's come out of our televisions in our lifetime, most of it has actually come from you guys. So when you're watching your TV, you've kind of got this subconscious understanding that what you're seeing on the TV is not real because television's not real, movies are not real. And then you come physically to your country and you see these yellow school buses and your letterboxes with the little flags on the side. They're things that we don't have in our country, full stop. Well, we don't have yellow school buses. We don't have those letterboxes. And there's many other things that you have that we don't have. When you see them in reality, it's like, hang on a second, that's not real because they're in the movies.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. What were some other things?
Yeah.
The accents, definitely, because we'd never actually, I mean, every now and then you might meet an American person, but just to have everybody speaking in these different accents right here in front of us, which is, we've heard all those accents, but it's so funny because each different area that has a different accent, it reminds you of a different movie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, we're in Forrest Gump. Oh my goodness, we're in like The Godfather. Oh my goodness, we're in Suttonville.
That's great. Yeah, you told me one story of going down the road and you saw an eating place.
Diner.
A
Yeah.
diner.
Like one of those classic silver shiny diners.
Like
that
a
you go-
50s diner.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where the girl walks around with the big jug of coffee and it's a never ending. When you keep drinking it, they keep on walking around and pouring it. Oh, we've only seen that in the movies. And to see that, like you said, it was like, to go. Because we had desired that, we had desired that to be our reality at some stage on our 50 days of driving around. And there it was. And I don't know whether I told you or not, but when we ate at that diner, and it was beyond what we had pictured that it could be. It was just amazing. But we went to pay and somebody else had already paid for all of that
Nice.
as well. Just like somebody who never even spoke to us. As they were leaving, they actually said, safe travels, y'all.
Yeah.
And then the waitress said, those guys that said safe travels to you, they paid for everything.
Oh, nice.
What reality are we living in here?
Right.
Like living in a movie.
But it was beautiful. It was like the desire of our heart was to experience what it was like to be in one of these diners that we'd seen on TV and to experience the endless amounts of coffee and just the atmosphere that was there.
Yeah.
And out of the desire of our heart, somebody at that diner they wanted to partner in that desire. And that even if they didn't know the fullness of what it was that they were partnering in, it's now become this beautiful testimony of joy and the adventure that as we each play our part, we follow those nudgings, we come into agreement with other people's dreams, even if we don't understand them. And, like they could have thought, well, that's not a very godly dream, to like experience going to a diner. But this is the everyday adventure, walking out the fullness with our Creator.
They partnered with giving more and we received more than we expected from being there. And not only that, that transaction is now compounding through this conversation with you and the people listening to us. Now, it becomes a gift for them as well if they choose to believe that it's possible. If you choose to believe that you're walking in union with Him at all times and that the things that you've dreamt are possible become your reality. But just know there's always more. Someone's now not just providing a place for you to go to their diner, but someone else is going to pay for it.
Right. And isn't that your whole trip, basically? Because you came to the U.S. and you didn't really have places to go, did you? But it seemed like it just came together, just step by step by step. where you hit, I mean, you were everywhere. Every time I got on Facebook, you were visiting some friends of ours or some people
Yeah.
that I've wanted to be in contact with, or, you were just everywhere all through the US and
Yeah.
almost like you had an itinerary, but you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We visited 22 states. We drove 10,000 miles or 16,000 kilometers in our measurement. And we met hundreds of people that
Yeah.
some we had sort of hoped, I guess, before we went there that we would meet, and others even such as yourself, Serge, and all the beautiful people that
Yeah.
are a part of your community in your home. That's the impossible. That's the unseen realm.
Yeah.
You never imagined that.
And it's also connecting with that heart vibration that when you reached out to us, and we started that text journey, and we were like, we've got to go see these guys. Like, there was just something that we knew that you were on the pathway. And that happened with so many people. And there were people that we weren't able to get to, and we just knew in that moment we can't make it. That's for the next trip.
Yeah.
But all of the hearts that were woven into this trip were beautiful. Like, it was so beautiful. It was part of the tapestry of this glorious oneness that we're sharing in together, and the way that we're each able to encourage one another as we come together in bodily form, which has just been really beautiful. Yeah.
Right. Well, I love that. And, before we came on here, by the way, I have not seen ducks since you guys left, except for today. And I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
What's this called? See one.
Yep. And at least for this community, and I know it's everywhere you went, but you have a ministry called Wildfire Tribe.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what was set off here. I feel like we've already had the fire going, but you just added to the fire.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about partnership, like you're talking about. That's what happens when two fires come together. It's even more wild,
Yeah.
And so I believe that's probably happened to a lot of places you visited, and I'm sure you're getting tons of testimony, but you definitely ignited some things here. The next day after you left, we have a group chat with all our friends and people that are connected to the community, and they're posting pictures of Joker cards and coins and telling testimony about coins. I'm like, what? And so, yeah, it's been good. So I appreciate you guys and appreciate your visit and willing to come out. One thing I didn't say is we were, we never had a conversation. And when you drove up into the driveway, I knew like, oh, this is going to be good. You got this camper. It's kind of got this like retro feel. I'm like, oh man, this is like it. And then we're sitting at my table 10 minutes later, and I made a comment to Sean. I'm like, Sean, you're not supposed to say that to people that you've only met 10 minutes ago. And you're like, no, I know I can say anything at this table. And so I love that. And, it was, I shared this with my wife, but it was a very emotional moment when you guys left, because I felt like I've known you guys forever. And that day felt like a week. And it's a testimony to when people come together and you're able just to give freely of each other with no holds, just the connection, no reservations, just like it's beyond words, right? And then the connection that happens, and it's mind blowing, but it's like in a matter of, a little over 24 hours, it's emotional that they're leaving. Like, come on. It seems ridiculous, but that's how it is. And we're all one anyway, But to experience that, yeah, it was an awesome time, and it's still resonating to this day. So I appreciate you guys.
Wow. Beautiful words, man. We feel the same too. Genuinely feel the same connection. And even when you said, like it was emotional when we're leaving, etc. It is for us everywhere we go as well.
Yeah.
But we have to leave so that we can come back, and we can't be everywhere that we've understood at the same time. And the reason why it's great for us to not see some people in your country that we might have wanted to see is now we have to come back.
Yes. That's it. I love it.
the heart of it. We just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary, and in our 31 years together, we've moved 27 times.
Wow.
And I think the heart of it, of our journey with our Creator, has been bringing us to this place where we're okay to be us, where we feel like the journey He's taking us on and the blueprint of our lives is okay, because it has been unconventional, and our training ground for that has actually been really unconventional as well. So we've chosen to be misunderstood in it as our journey has unfolded. But I feel like now we're getting to experience, and the America trip was the beautiful largeness of what that could be, where the Wildfire Tribe is about stoking the little fires everywhere and coming in and just breathing oxygen and air onto what already is. Because the expression of who you are is beautiful, Serge. Like what you guys are nurturing in your community is just so beautiful and unique and vibrant and gorgeous. But it actually, when each one of us plays our part, so we come in and we're a part of encouraging you guys in the fullness of who you already are. It gives permission to each one of us that what we hold and what we carry and who we are is valuable to the whole. And I think there's something really powerful about that, knowing who we are in the expression of the whole and embracing that wholeheartedly, so that as we step into it, like us being us, doesn't say, this is how you do it, guys, like do it like us. It's actually saying, in the freedom that we're choosing to be our authentic selves, is also giving you permission to be your authentic self in whatever expression that is. And that's the beauty of and the honor that we get in doing what we do, is we're partnering with hearts, just going, we're cheering you on because it's beautiful. And yeah, I so feel that connection that we had right from that first moment where we got out of our van and we're like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Can you believe this? Can you believe these guys actually risked inviting us into their knowledge?
When you know, you know. When you know, you know. So run us through your ministry. It's Wildfire Tribe.
So wildfiretribe.life is our website. And so that's the best place for anybody to go to get a bit of an understanding of what it is that we do. If you need some more layers of understanding, then simply just go to wildfiretribe.life and click on a link, and message us and ask us, what are you guys actually about? What can you do? What are you prepared to do? We're in this country. Will you come? Because we do many things, but we do like to create conversation around whatever it is that you have an understanding of at this current moment.
Yeah. And I think conversation is really one of the pieces that we try to encourage the most. And we do that we have a podcast that we release every week called Reimagine with Sean and Kylie. And that's probably one of the foundational aspects of our ministry, where we're just trying to create conversation around a lot of topics that have been taboo, but also around a lot of, we try to bring an expanded conversation to some of the current belief systems that we have believed in the church, but maybe to think about things and look at things a little bit differently. So we do that a lot in the conversations that we have.
And our conversations, Serge, are not about ideas or concepts that we're not walking in. Our conversations are pretty out there, like, engaging with angels, etc., because that is our reality. So our conversations are our actual daily walk in union with each other as a couple and in union with the creator of all as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Beautiful. And I even hear that, I've run across a few songs on Spotify from Kylie.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that till after you left. I was like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah. So
Songs.
Yeah, we certainly want to, as co-creators, we are both creatives. We're artists and musicians, and I have a book I've written called The New Now as well. And we have a real creative aspect to ourselves that we release alongside the media aspect of what we do with our ministry. So I think that, we want to we want to encourage the creative expression and what that might look like. And I talk about some of those things in some of my songs too, just thinking about things like, I don't write traditional worship songs or even traditional Christian songs. I write songs that challenge the way that we think about ourselves and our own personal journeys of how do I love me? Like, is it okay to love me? And different, different concepts that we have about bringing ourselves into the fullness of who we've been created to be. So, not your traditional kind of style of things, probably across the board.
Music, book, artwork, whether artist.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
There's a range of bliss balls that are on T-shirts and other things as well that we've created. There's many things that we're not very good at self-promotion, Serge.
No, we're good at the creation journey, but not at.
Well, the website's a good place to go because I think it encompasses everything. So, go check out their website. I'm going to put the links to your website in the description of this podcast so everybody can get to you. So,
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys being on here. Find everything you need to know about Sean and Kylie Henderson by going to their website. It's wildfiretribe.life. Kings and Priests Podcast is a ministry of Urban Eden. To learn more about us, to get resources, and to find details on our monthly gatherings in Tulsa, Oklahoma, visit the website urbanedencmty.com and consider sowing a financial seed to help us spread the message of God's kingdom. Visit the website for details.